Right, so I'm working on this mini bike now. I made the frame a few years ago. It's just 7/8 .083, not DOM tubing. I used my homemade bender here, 7/8 die. I showed it in the previous video, so you can check that out if you want to see more on it. I was going to make a bunch of these frames and sell them, but it was too much work, so I decided not to. Yeah, this one's got some problems, so I didn't want to sell it anyway. The Briggs is a 1964. Not sure if it's a 4 or 5 horsepower, but it's in great shape. It ran good when I got it a couple years ago, but I gotta try it again before I put it on here. Needs a muffler. And I'm gonna use a clutch band brake on it. I made the bracket and everything. And the cover. I pieced together the jack shaft. It's a three-quarter shaft. These brackets are slotted for the adjustment. I'm gonna have to I welded this sprocket on because it's not really designed for this application, but so I had to weld it on. But this outer one is removable, and I made cut my own keyway with the grinder and this slot for the C-clip with the Dremel. I'm not sure what foot pegs I'm going to use yet. Might use these Harley ones, but kind of like these better, but I only have one grip. This one. So, not sure yet. For the wheels I used, I found these tires in my stash. They match good front and back. But they're 4" in front and 6" in back Manco wheels. So that's what I managed to piece together from what I had. Looks good. I didn't really like the standard 410 3.5 6 size on the back. I like the bigger one. Fills it out better. The front one's a little small, but it looks okay. Alright, I came up with some throttle grips and brake lever. I have to paint that. It's a little rusty. But made the brackets for the foot pegs here. Just took two squares there, rounded them off and drilled the holes, and then cap off the end with that piece. And I'm gonna stick them here somewhere. I wanted to show you some of the tools I use. Got a Lincoln 100 welder with CO2 gas. It's cheaper than the mixed gas, so that's what I like to use. It's like $10 or $12 to fill that tank. And I got this chomper. It's a Woodward Fab shear. Works good for all this kind of metal, up to like almost can't do like a quarter, maybe 3/16. or eighth. Probably usually don't do more than 1/8 inch because it stresses it too much. And I got this Milwaukee chop saw. It's for the bigger stuff, long lengths. And got my 3 Milwaukee grinders with different blades on them. I had 4, but the other one's used for parts now. I always piece these together when they're breaking, but the main thing is the brushes wore out, and then I fixed that by moving the wire that goes to them. It gets hung up on the back of the brush part, so I resoldered the wire in a different position, and then I get a lot more life out of the brushes. And I got these DeWalt trails. I got 3 or 4 of them, but they're not very good either, but they work. Usually the chucks break and then I have to change the chuck and then keep going. And I got the Milwaukee drill for the bigger stuff, 1/2 inch, and die grinder. And I just got this one recently. It works really good. I put the little worn out cutoff wheels from the big grinder on here to use them up the rest of the way. Got a whole stack of them there. And the old bench grinder, of course. Got the grinding wheel and the wire brush on it. And use this for sheet metal shear. This one's good for tight bends. It's an old Jefferson Engineering. I got this one for straighter cuts, Milwaukee. I use the circular saw for the really big jobs, like long lengths of plate, 1/4 inch or whatever. I use these a lot for punching big holes. Greenlee punch kit. Knockout punch driver set. It's hydraulic. Those are pretty expensive. I got this one for like 15 bucks at a garage sale. They're like 250 or something if you wanted to buy one, but they work really good. And I use this one for the smaller holes. Old manual punch. It's only like a 1/4 inch. But that works really good too. And these, I only have one of these. It's a Ideal brand from Lowe's. They use them for electrical, I guess, but it's really good, good working for pretty much any thickness metal you want to cut. Hole saw. They only come in like 3 or 4 sizes. I think this one's 1 1/8, but I cut any thickness up until it hits a stop anyway. Works really good. Been using that for years. They're expensive though. This one was 30 bucks or 40 bucks or something. And the whole set's like 120 for 3 or 4 different sizes. But I use that as much as possible because it works so good. Alright. You can see these rounded ends here. I made these die to squish the tubing there. Just got some rounded ends on it. And put it in the press and squish it down. Sometimes you gotta heat it a little bit to get it to squish all the way. But does the job. Did it on here too, on these ends. I'm also working on this motorized bicycle. It's an old 70s or 80s Sears, I think. Little Chinese 50cc motorized bicycle kit. It was used. The clutch was stuck and there's something wrong with the carburetor. It's too rich or something, so I gotta probably I'm gonna try a lawnmower carburetor on there and see what it does. I think maybe they drilled out the jet or something when the previous owner had it. And I had to replace the coil and the ignition parts in there because they wasn't getting spark. It's got a cool Springer front end on it. Made this little gas tank into the seat here. Take off the clips and slide it out. And you can fill it up. It's in there like that. I was riding it around the other day and it works pretty damn good. A lot of fun. But it started running weird, so I'm gonna play with the carburetor more. I gotta put a smaller sprocket on here too because it's kinda hard to pedal. Here's how I make the seats. start with the plywood base and then layer it up with carpet foam. And I put on another layer of thick, thin cotton or whatever. And that smooths out the sides and everything once it's all together. And for the upholstery I use old car seats. Use the nice part for the top and the smooth parts for the pleating in the sides. I make my own pleating with just put a piece of wire in there and sew it around. Still gotta make the sides on this, but to start. And then I usually kick up the back with another piece of foam in there. It's around here somewhere. And the kickstand, it's an old bicycle kickstand. I cut off the top and made a new one. And cut it shorter and put a little washer on it for a pad. Looks pretty good on there. Alright, I decided to put the foot pegs back here. There's a lot more room for your ankles and everything back there, and if they were up here I'd have to put them out way farther, especially on that side with the clutch cover there. So now my foot will fit nicely in there, and it's not too uncomfortable or anything, so I think it'll work good. Alright. I was thinking about using these spoked wheels on it, but I don't know, kind of like the aluminum ones. I made these too. Cut out the centers of, they were one piece wheels, so I cut the centers out and spoked them up. Alright, I wanted to show you the forks here. This is what I usually do when I build bikes from scratch. On the fork bolt, I weld the bottom nut in place and drill the bolt in the nut for a cotter pin. And that's especially important on the bushing necks, because you don't want the bolt turning on the forks or it'll wear out these holes. So you always want it turning when you in the neck part when you're turning. And sometimes I even do that on the old bikes, because if the holes are wallered out, and it really tightens it up, and seems to be the easiest way to go about that. You could also use a castle nut there, but that would probably allow for a little more slop, like that, because then your cotter pin's going to be moving around there with the bolt, and you don't really want that bolt to move at all. So, speaking of bolts, somebody asked about my bolt collection. I got a lot of bolts. Got this whole box, this one, and there's nuts and washers. There's tons more in all these boxes and cans. And I got all these bolts, more nuts. They just add up. And here's just miscellaneous pieces of metal and stuff. More bigger bolts here. Probably more than half of these my brother brought home from work, because he works at a shop and he just didn't want them anymore. I got this pile of bigger bolts. I got more here, big washers and things. More washers there, and another tray of washers over here. Big ones. Yep. So, and then for the smaller screws, I pretty much have most of my stuff downstairs, but whatever I can't find in here I go downstairs and get, because I've got trays and trays of small screws and nuts down there. Yep, they add up. But it's a lot easier than going to the hardware store every time you need something. Alright. Alright, it came out real nice. I got the seat all done. That went well. Painted the guard here. This front part's stainless, so I just left it shiny and painted the rest. I made the throttle cable come in from the back here, wraps around under the engine plate, and got this little 90-degree elbow on there. The governor's still hooked up, so kinda holds it back a little, but this one's not built for speed, so quick enough for me. Alright, hope you like it. Thanks for watching.